The delivery should echoed, breaking the solemn silence of the great hall. From behind a massive desk, a commanding but cold voice rang out, "Enter." Jin Runcandel in full armor stepped in, his sword at his hip. He stopped, maintaining a respectful distance, and asked, "Did you call for me, mother?" From her throne-like chair, Rosa looked up, her sharp gaze fixed on her son. Soft golden light from the large glass windows illuminated her long black hair, creating an aura of power. She slowly replied, "Yes, I heard you completed the mission safely. The result is very satisfactory." "Thank you, mother," Jin replied respectfully, his expression still calm. The satisfaction on Rosa's face quickly faded, replaced by scrutiny. She turned a page in the ledger before her, her voice growing colder. "Yes, as for Petro's report, I'm told you refused my offer to transfer departments." She pressed her hand down on the table, and an invisible, heavy pressure suddenly filled the space, signaling her rising displeasure. The delivery should authoritative voice rang out. "As you know, only children who will become the next clan head can use that room. It's been empty since Joshua used it when he was young, but I want you to start using it." Facing her, Jin stood up straight, his azure eyes firm. He politely replied, "Thank you, mother. However, I decline." A fleeting surprise crossed Rosa's usually serene face. She furrowed her brow slightly, asking concisely, "Why?" Jin calmly explained, his voice echoing in the spacious area. "No matter how good it is, it's still just a room. It's too vast and luxurious for me." "Are you truly not going to accept it?" Rosa asked again, seemingly wanting to confirm his resolve. "Yes, I've already made my decision," Jin replied, a gentle yet confident smile gracing his lips. Silence filled the space. Rosa's slender fingers tapped lightly on the polished wooden table, creating dry tap-tap sounds as she stared at her son. Finally, she spoke, "Very well, you may go." "Yes, mother." Jin bowed slightly, then turned and walked away. His solitary footsteps echoed briefly, then faded, leaving absolute silence in the room. The opulent room fell silent, with only the warm golden light softly illuminating the majestic chair where Rosa Runcandel sat. She gently rested her chin, her deep eyes reflecting contemplation, and an enigmatic smile played on her lips. Is my youngest truly without greed, or is his ambition too vast? It's genuinely hard to tell. She recalled her offer. What she had granted Jin was a room reserved only for children who would bear the future of the Runcandel family, and she was sure he knew the immense support he would receive upon entering it. But every privilege came with a price. The moment Jin accepted, he had placed himself in danger, becoming a target for those not chosen. The image of her youngest son standing firm amidst countless sharp blades, ready to pierce through him from all sides, clearly appeared in her mind. Rosa leaned back slightly, the smile on her lips turning to satisfaction. "So, he realized I was testing him," she thought to herself, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "I will look forward to your performance in the intermediate class." The next day, in the training hall with its cold, pristine white marble floor, Jin stood before the students of his age group. He swept his gaze across them, then spoke clearly. "Starting tomorrow, we will be promoted to the intermediate training class. The intermediate class is composed of various factions. You will become part of my faction. This also means you will be drawn into territorial conflicts and face harassment." Hearing this, the two's faces briefly tensed, but Jin immediately reassured them, a slight smile gracing his lips. "But don't be too afraid. I don't intend to just stand by and watch that happen, and such things will surely disappear once I've completely suppressed the intermediate class. Until then, move in groups of 3, even when not training, and avoid acting alone. Understood?" Jin's confidence and promise of protection ignited a flame of determination in the recruits' eyes. They responded in unison, their voices echoing loudly before the majestic training hall. "Understood, sir." Just then, a deep and authoritative voice rang out, silencing everyone. "Attention!" From above, Zed Runcandel appeared, a dignified figure with silver hair and his distinctive red eye patch. His sharp gaze swept over the ranks of recruits. The aura of an 8-star knight made the space feel suspended. He spoke, announcing each word coldly and clearly. "This year, 10 new recruits have joined, and 27 have been eliminated." His harsh declaration hung over the young warriors like a warning, reminding them of the arduous and brutal path ahead. The Zed Runcandel stood solemnly before the recruits, his stern voice resounding. "Recruits, learn how things are done in the intermediate class from your seniors. I only teach swordsmanship and evaluate your performance. Any incidents that arise, excluding murder, you will resolve yourselves." Within the ranks, Jin Runcandel listened silently. His delicate face showed no particular emotion, but his deep blue eyes gleamed with profound understanding, as if already too familiar with these harsh rules. Suddenly, Zed lifted his head high, his authoritative presence exploding as he roared, his shout like thunder overpowering all other sounds in the vast hall. "Let me ask the seniors, what have I always emphasized?" His voice echoed throughout the immense space, where hundreds of students in neat uniforms stood solemnly. From their ranks, a unified roar, powerful and resounding like an iron oath, answered his question. "The weak have no place in Runcandel." On the high platform, Zed's back remained imposing, a living symbol of the clan's absolute power and severity. The delivery roar echoed through the vast training ground, permeating the cold air. "The weak have no place in Runcandel." Amidst the tense atmosphere, Jin Runcandel exhaled softly, a wisp of white smoke dissolving into the air. His eyes were calm, unperturbed by the commotion. "Quite noisy," he thought to himself. "They're trying to demoralize us." The other trainees' gazes converged on the source of the shout. There, the Tona twins stood, chests puffed out, still yelling their family's brutal motto. A few trainees standing nearby began whispering to each other, their eyes full of doubt. The Tona brothers, over there, that big guy next to them seems to be a long-time trainee. No way those twins could have beaten him by themselves. They must have gotten help from Mew and Anne. Perhaps they're trying to intimidate us new recruits. Mesa seemed to hear the murmurs. She flinched slightly and turned her head back. Realizing the misunderstanding spreading, an idea sparked in Jin's mind. "It seems I should let them know they've made a fatal mistake." The delivery slowly advanced, the sword in his hand reflecting a cold light, heading straight towards the crowd of knights arrayed before him. Witnessing the scene, Tona and Tona stood frozen, their faces drained to all color. Tona stammered, his voice filled with panic. "What the hell? Why is he coming this way?" Tona, standing beside him, tried to reassure them both, despite his own pale face. "Don't be afraid. We still have Sister Mew and Sister Anne to back us up." Despite his two brothers' panic, Jin maintained a calm pace, his right hand resting lightly on his sword hilt. In an instant, a flash of light gleamed, too fast to discern. Jin's sword had been drawn and swung in a fluid, precise arc. Tona and Tona could only gape in astonishment. The knight, before he could even register what happened, found his body stiffened before slowly collapsing to the ground. Fresh blood splattered, staining a part of Jin's chest armor red. Zed merely observed silently, his sharp eyes devoid of any expression. The remaining knights stood rooted to the spot, their faces dazed and filled with fear, staring at Jin as if witnessing a true monster. The delivery scream of pain echoed through the training ground, shattering the serene atmosphere. On the cold white tiles, Kajin Romero knelt, clutching his shoulder stump that was gushing blood. His right arm, still in its armor, lay severed not far away, the pool of blood spreading wider and wider. Standing above him, Jin Runcandel gazed coldly at his handiwork, his sword still stained with fresh blood. A faint smirk appeared on his delicate face. "It's not me who needs to be welcomed," Jin said calmly, his voice sharp as a blade, "but all of you." With that, he neatly sheathed his sword, his eyes unwavering. "Call a medic." The incident unfolded too quickly and brutally, leaving the others stunned. Tona roared in anger. "Jin, you bastard, are you insane? Why did you—" Completely ignoring the shouts, Jin bent down and looked directly at Kajin, who was writhing in agony. "Trainee," he asked, his voice even, "what's your name?" Kajin gritted his teeth, sweat and blood mingling on his face, contorted in pain. He replied with difficulty, "Kajin Romero." Jin nodded slightly, his sharp gaze fixed on the defeated knight. "Do you know why I cut off your arm?" Meanwhile, Tona unsheathed his sword, pointed it at Jin and yelled, "Hey, are you ignoring us? Draw your sword again, now!" The delivery grew heavy, thick. Jin narrowed his eyes, his gaze sharp as a dagger, piercing the space, fixing on those who had just cut in. His voice rang out, cold and authoritative. "Can't you see I'm talking to Kajin? I'll accept the duel later, so please be quiet." Tona, unable to contain his blazing rage, roared, "You little rat! How dare you behave like this after cutting my student?" He abruptly fell silent, his eyes wide in horror. Tona quickly clapped a hand over his mouth, realizing he had let slip something. A subtly mocking, scornful smile appeared on Jin's lips. He slowly repeated, emphasizing each word, "Your student, you say." Jin's gaze swept over Kajin, slumped on the cold marble floor, fresh blood from his wound spreading across the ground. He calmly turned back to Tona, his smile still there. "Is he from your faction? He showed killing intent when he looked at me, so I slashed him." Amidst the breathless silence, the other students just stood frozen, their faces drained of color in astonishment and confusion at what had just unfolded. The atmosphere in the Runcandel family's training ground was as taut as a bowstring. A rank battle was about to erupt. Tona Runcandel gnashed his teeth, his face etched with extreme fury as he confronted his younger brother. In stark contrast, Jin Runcandel merely stood there, a calm yet challenging smile playing on his lips. The elder brother's attempts to suppress their youngest sibling had failed miserably, leading to a painful counterattack. This development seemed to please Zed, who was grinning sinisterly and with great satisfaction from the shadows. The confrontation grew more complicated as Kajin's position within the Tona twins' faction was solidified, leaving him only to grind his teeth in resentment. Thanks to these subtle political maneuvers, Jin's actions were no longer merely unpredictable outbursts. They had been officially elevated to a rank battle, a long-standing and brutal tradition of the Runcandel clan. It was an extremely audacious move. In the vast training ground, under the gaze of everyone present, a powerful aura erupted around Jin's figure. He shouted loudly, his voice echoing throughout the space, carrying undeniable solemnity. "Hear ye all trainees, I am Jin Runcandel." The delivery should point your swords at me or even launch a surprise attack as I just did. However, should you show even the slightest hostility towards me, I will not hesitate to strike back. The sharp declaration made the crowd of knights in their blue and white armor freeze, cold sweat breaking out on their foreheads. Amidst the chaotic scene, with streaks of blood splattered on the white stone floor, a figure stood upright, his sword still at his hip. The authoritative voice rang out again, this time clearly identifying its target, Jin Runcandel, the 13th son, the youngest child of the family. Jin, with his dark hair slightly disheveled, responded calmly, "Yes, elder." Suddenly, an immense pressure descended, Zed Runcandel's massive dark silhouette looming like a colossal mountain, engulfing the space. His furious red eyes glowed in the darkness, and his voice thundered like lightning, imbued with bone-chilling intimidation. "You think you dare do such a thing in front of me?" Faced with the 8-star knight's fury, Jin Runcandel did not flinch. He lifted his head, his resolute blue eyes staring straight into the darkness, his voice firm and clear. "Yes, I do." Silence enveloped the hall. The pressure seemed to ease slightly, replaced instead by a dangerous curiosity. From the shadows, Zed spoke, his voice deepening. "Why?" The Tona twins stood behind him, their faces paling with shock at the audacious declaration. "Because I believe I am not fighting the Tona brothers," Jin stated resolutely, "but you, elder." Zed Runcandel's cold gaze, hidden behind his red eye patch, narrowed slightly. A moment of silence enveloped him before he spoke in a deep voice, laced with a hint of skepticism and amusement. "You say you fought me? How interesting." As soon as he finished speaking, a brilliant golden aura erupted from Zed's hand, energy surging like thunder ready to burst forth, seemingly shattering the surrounding space. The scene suddenly changed. Now both stood facing each other in a vast empty hall with a pristine white cold-tiled floor. An invisible pressure weighed heavily on the space. Zed stood imposingly, his shadow stretching long across the floor, exuding terrifying killing intent. "Explain," his voice echoed, cold as ice. "Depending on your answer, I might just lop off your head right here." Yet, faced with impending death, Jin still stood ramrod straight, his expression unnervingly serene.